This week, we've got a big message from the angels, a channel message all about our role as humans in the universe. The fact that we, they say, are here to guide others to understanding themselves more deeply because of our specific perspective moving between separation and unity. So it's an amazing message, and I am so glad you guys are here to share it with me. So welcome back to my channel, you guys. I am so glad you are here. My name is Ann Tucker. For those of you who are new, I'm a trance channel. I channel from the angelic realm, and I do that by going into a deep meditative state or trance, and from there I raise my vibration up as high as I can go, and then I stretch a little higher. I connect at the angelic realm. Messages and information and healing come through, and I share it here with you guys on YouTube. So, and this week's message is it's a cosmic message. It's very deep. I feel like I had to spend quite a bit of time with this one, but I will share with you guys before I dig into the message. I will share a metaphor that I think really helps to make it clear. And I do feel like it's what they're sharing with us here is a different understanding of who we are, understanding ourselves really the way that the angels see us, understanding who we are as energy, who we are as an expression of the divine, and why we see ourselves the way that we do. So it's a really, really interesting message, and I think you guys are going to love it. So before I dig in, I want to let you guys know that if you would like to join me live for when I present these messages, you'll notice sometimes when I'm talking through the message that I'm responding to comments, that I am going to be presenting those now in a new network. I used to be doing it on Facebook. I'm moving off of Facebook and into a brand new group on a network called Mighty Networks. I'm doing that for a bunch of different reasons. One of the biggest reasons is because I feel like one of the things I'd really like to do with our group, we had a pretty large group on Facebook, but Facebook didn't really support us in doing what I saw as really the thing that has the most potential to support us, which is to move our relationships that we form online into the physical world, to start to develop real friendships, and even people that maybe you could meet in your local area. And Mighty Networks as a platform is really, really designed to try to encourage and support that process. So when I decided it was time to move off of Facebook, when I was starting to feel like it wasn't supporting us, it didn't offer the opportunity to do the things we wanted to do, I started looking around. I looked at literally like every group platform that was out there. Mighty Networks was the only one that offered this kind of capability. And I'm super excited about it. I'm going to tell you guys all about it, but I don't want to distract from the message. So I had a whole conversation about this with my Facebook group, and I'm going to attach that at the end of the video. I'll talk through the description of why I want to form the group, what we're going to do in the group. Just know that there's going to be two areas inside of the Mighty Network group that we're forming. And one is going to be 100% free, and that is where I'm going to be just sharing the message, and it's the same thing I used to do on Facebook, where I'm going to be sharing the live message, which I will go live every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific, and you are absolutely welcome to join in at that free level, be there on Fridays, be part of the community, and participate in the conversation, and that will be, I'd love to have you there for that piece of it. There will also be a paid version, which moves beyond that, which starts to offer things we were never able to offer before, which will be the platform that enables us to start forming local community. And it's going to do a whole lot more. So I will tell you all about it. As I said, because I had a whole conversation about this with Facebook, but I do want us to be able to jump into the message and stay focused on what the angels want to share with us today. So if you'd like to know more about it, when you get to the end of the message, you'll see it switches, and there'll be a whole section in there where I describe this new group, which I would love for you to come and be a part of. I can tell you that a big part of my journey in the beginning is I fell out of resonance. With friends, I found that I didn't have anyone to share what my experiences were. I didn't have anyone to talk to about it. And so what I did is I went out and I literally rented a theater, and I put an ad on Meetup, and thank goodness people showed up. Like I ended up having like 25 people show up, and some of those people are still close friends of mine today. And so that was my path, but I know that's not easy for everyone to do. It's not the way everyone is meant to go about things. I am just lucky it worked out for me, but I want to make that possible for everyone. And so that is part of the reason I feel like more and more like we need that support. that, and it's going to be increasingly important as this process of the unraveling, as we move into our shift in consciousness, as we move further and further down that path. I feel like having local connections will be increasingly valuable to us. So if you would like to know more about it, listen in at the end, and I will put the links down below where you can join the network, where you can join us on Mighty Networks. There will be the free link as well as the information about the paid group if you'd like to be in it. All right, you guys. So now let's dig into the message. So here is how I would describe it. So in the message, the angels are talking about how we are not if you think about the idea of a particle and a wave, they say we are not a particle. We do not jump from level of consciousness to level of consciousness and then just sort of freeze in that spot and then look back at where we used to be. They say we are in fact a wave, which is a continual expression of who we are, which I think is what they refer to as our soul song, as the constant vibration of our connection to source, to God, to our divinity. So if we are a wave, they say that there are other waves, universal waves of growth, which they call transcendent waves, which come and affect us. So you think about the wave that we are, think of that as a string of a guitar, a string, like a musical string on an instrument. And we are being played by these waves of transcendence that come along, that hit our wave, and it's almost like plucking the string, and it makes music. And if you think about when you pluck a string, it vibrates back and forth. And that vibration back and forth is our movement between unity and separation. Unity and separation. And when we move into separation, we look back and we're able to see ourselves and learn more about ourselves. And then as we move from that place back into unity, we take what we learned and we integrate it and we grow, right? That's the transcendent wave. It causes us to grow. So what happens to the string when that happens? Well, it is tuning, fine-tuning the string so that it plays even more and more and more refined version of itself. Right? It's this gradual spiral upward into higher and higher states of consciousness, but it's always the same string. So it's a fascinating idea as they're describing us as this wave of consciousness that is our connection. The string is our connection to divinity. But here's where it gets interesting, is they say that we never see the string, that we focus on the music that's being played. We focus on the difference between, as we move from our separated state to our unified state. It's almost like you're plucking the string and it's making music. That's what we focus on. We focus because of the fact of the way that we're architected to see differences, to see patterns, to see things like that. That is what we focus on. And that's how we define ourselves. We say, well, I am who I am today because I'm not who I was yesterday. Right? And so we define ourselves through separation. And they're saying, well, that's not actually who we truly are. It's a way of growing who we are, but the truth of who we are is the string. And so that is how they see us. They see us as the string. And at the end of the message, they give us some ideas about how we can actually hear ourselves, how we can settle down enough to be able to hear that string, which is, it's a beautiful, beautiful message. So I think you guys are going to love it. All right, so I hope you enjoy the message. And like I said, if you'd like to know more about the group, just stay all the way to the end. And the last section at the end is going to be the conversation I had this morning with our Facebook group, telling them all about it.
Beginning in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Blessings, we are within. The dualistic nature of humankind shall be enduring. It is the orchestration of who you are that exemplifies the integration of all things. It is the orienting from your own consciousness and integration between both sides, the orientation of what is and what is not, of what you shall encounter and where you are now, of this that is in presence and that what you are, which has not yet existed. You are in the duality of presence and in communion with all that is, as the way shower who will encounter themselves through this dualistic perspective. You guide all beings to themselves. You guide all who would know themselves through the encounterless presence of I am nothing into the permeating presence of I am all that is. The dualistic presence of humanity endures dynamically and strong, and it will evolve into the presence of I am in oneness. It will become something from which you will encounter yourselves differently. It will juxtapose how you become to how you have been, which indeed is, again, a separative perspective. It will show yourselves how to encounter what was before through the lens of what you have become. And in so doing, the evolution of a soul becomes clear. And through this clarity, you can surmise how life itself began. You can come into the oneness of unity to divest yourself from it and reunify with it once again, which is indeed the cycle of all beginnings, endings, and life itself. You are, in this way, a dynamic propulsion of energy that, through its fluidity, exists to exemplify and exonerate the perspective of the human in its own digression from itself. You shall know yourselves more completely as time moves on. You shall come into the next integration and integrative times with a oneness, an external shell, a membrane which shall vibrate to the attunement of all beings, which you shall harness yourself within and as a part of. And from within that perspective, you shall announce yourselves as within a wholeness you can encounter only seldomly. And from within the perspective of the one of I am, you shall then begin to extinguish the sensation of selves as isolated from the great one, from the wholeness of all that became before you arrived. It is thus a continuing and ongoing adventure. You are yet in the process of beginning. The solution space of self does not evolve into the next beginnings while also contemplating the loss of what was. The self must evolve in perpetuity, not from solidified state to solidified state of unified and dualistic and unified again, but as one being in a continuum of expression, as one being who knows itself, herself, himself, as presence ongoing in the forever space of inextinguishable light that carries on to the eternal. And through this perspective, there are yet waves of transcendence that move across the field of your expression. And within these waves of separation and unity, you find yourselves drawn into the relative knowing or not knowingness within which you become expressed. Thus, you are raised and lowered and raised again, but always within the expression of who you are today, tomorrow, and always. The self as you are knows change, is change, evolves through change, becomes change again, is always within the context of reacquainting yourself with self. There is never, amongst all of the instigations of who you are, two moments of soul that would know each other completely. There are always moments of juxtaposition within which to present yourself anew. And throughout the contextual understanding of humankind, which exists forever and will exist always, Your soul shall find itself within the differences, within the patterning and expression of I am as interpreted by who I was and who I am becoming. You see yourself not as the through line, not as the continuation, the fluidity which truly embodies you, but as the patterning of differences that evolves through time, as the I was, I am now, I am yet again, and these are the parts that cannot continue, that separate me from who I was then. You see the black, not the white not the black. You see patterns and patterning within the expression of the wholeness. You see separation through differences, and through this means and method, you interpret humanity, reality, all that comes, all that will come, all that separates you once again. Within the soul, within the self, there is continuity, like a verb that transitions between moments and realities and expressions, that is unchanging, enduring forever, and that knows itself more deeply as each harmonious blending becomes itself. You grow richer, not through polarity, but through fine tuning the instrument of your own harmony, through an expression of your soul in greater octaves and in vibrations not yet known to yourself, but always the same tone, frequency of I am. This is the indication of your divinity. This is the truth of your ownness. And this shall stay in the stillness of your memories. In the deepest contemplations that are possible, in the most potent center of your beingness, you may attune to this quiet, to the stillness of your soul, to wherein lies the continuity, which is your expression across all space, time, and dimension. The richness of you, the reverberation of you, like a wind, like a whistle, and you may hear it in the stillness, in the softness. And it is this that we sing to you as we draw you forward into the next expression of who you are to become. Oh my gosh, you guys. So I don't know if it's possible that I actually love these messages more as they keep coming. Like each message, I love more. How is that possible? I keep thinking this is my favorite message ever. And I think I say that every week. But I do. I love it. I love this message. It is so beautiful, you guys. So beautiful. So I want to see in here and see if you guys loved it too. I have to refresh my thing because it doesn't update very well doing this crazy Facebookiness. There you go. You guys are still getting connected. So, and you said, where are my reading glasses? I know my squinting. Was I squinting as I was reading that? You know, I should be wearing my reading glasses. I printed out in really big font, so that helps me. I pointed out like 14-point font. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and break down the message, because I love this message. I do feel like it takes thinking, it takes breaking down, because it's a new way of thinking about ourselves and a beautiful way of thinking about ourselves. I think it really brings us much more of an understanding of ourselves as energy. You know what I mean? Of understanding ourselves as the way the angels see us, the way other energetic beings see us. It kind of takes us out of our human perspective to see us, and they keep talking about like the truth part, you know what I mean? Like, who are we really? Well, what we really are is this wave of energy. And I love that they describe us as propulsion, right? And what propulses us is this movement, is the movement between. It's almost like imagine it almost like a fin that's going back and forth, that's pushing us through space and time, if there is such a thing, right? Moving, it creates dynamism and change, which continues, that makes us evolve, which makes us energy. So, and it is the movement between polarity, unity, separation, unity, right? So amazing to think about. So, okay. So let's go into the message and break it down. So here is what they say. First paragraph, they say, the dualistic nature of humankind shall be enduring. It is the orchestration of who you are that exemplifies the integration of all things. So I think this first part here is important, because they're saying when we get to the higher state of consciousness, when we get to unity,
It doesn't mean that we will no longer be there won't be polarity about us, that we will still understand things through a dualistic nature, that we will still see things through what I am and what I am not, or we will still understand things through this is a cat, not a dog. This is a tree, not a bush. Like we'll still understand things through the human perspective through comparing things to one another. And so they'll say, no matter what, even when we are in oneness, we will still have that dualistic nature. So that's just part of how we're orchestrated. So why is that? Well, it's part of what makes us that energy that moves. It's part of what makes us a wave. Like a wave has highs and lows, right? A wave has to have something that propels it forward. And what propels us forward is our dualistic nature, which is crazy to think about. So, okay, and they say it is the orchestration of who you are that exemplifies the integration of all things. So this wave that we're going through is not for no purpose. It is through the process of gradual integration of everything, right? It's the slow movement of things that we are gradually trying to integrate more and more perspectives of who we are through separation. And the way I think about that in the message is think of the separation as when we are trying to understand ourselves by looking in a mirror. When you look through a mirror, you are outside of yourself, right? You're moving your perspective out and looking back at yourself through a mirror, but the mirror doesn't reflect you absolutely accurately. It kind of flips it, right? You kind of see yourself in reverse. So it's not a super accurate picture. So even that is a separation from ourselves. And then gradually we take that inside and incorporate that as an understanding of what we look like. But then we look, it's that constant movement of moving out and moving back in. And so that I see is that the part of trying to see ourselves and integrate what we perceive. And that then propels us higher and higher and higher. So, okay, it exemplifies the integration of all things. They go on to say it is the orienting from your own consciousness and integration between both sides, between outside, inside, right? Unified, polarized. And they go on to say the orientation of what is and what is not, of what you shall encounter and where you are now, of this that is in presence and that which you are, which has not yet existed. So they're kind of giving examples here of where we might put our attention, which takes us from what is, which would be the oneness, to what is not, which is what's outside of ourselves. And just showing that this is how we think. This is what it is to be human. This is what it is inside of a human brain and how we see existence. They go on to say, next paragraph, and I did little cheat sheets for myself. So I said the summary of that first paragraph says that we will always be and we will remain in a dualistic nature, learning to integrate both perspectives. So that's my summary of the first paragraph. The next paragraph I summarized to say, we will achieve oneness and then we will understand it because it's different from how we were. We will say, okay, now we've achieved it. We are in oneness. How do we know we are in oneness? Because it's different from how we used to be when we were living in duality. So we'll say, now we've achieved oneness with all things. But the funniest thing is that when we understand it like that, when we compare it, that is again separation. We are separating ourselves from how we used to be. So we can't escape it, is what they're saying. That even in understanding our oneness, we create separation from how we used to be. So it's really, they're kind of saying you can't get away from it, that it's like layers of an onion, that we are going to be always moving back and forth between oneness and separation. But they're saying the goal of it, they say, but it teaches us about the evolution of the soul and how life began. So that is very interesting. So here's how they say it. They say, you are in the duality of presence and in communion with all that is. As the way shower who will encounter themselves through this dualistic perspective, you guide all beings to themselves. You guide all who would know themselves through the encounterless presence of I am nothing into the permeating presence of I am all that is. So this is, I think, a super important statement here about is sort of the why of humanity. Why are we the way that we are? And what role do we play in the overall structure? So if we think about, if everything in the universe is fractalized, if all things that are true inside of our body are true about the universe, well, inside of our body, everything has a purpose. Like that there are organs, that every organ does something for the whole. Well, maybe this is humanity's role for the whole, for the all of all beings that exist anywhere, is to live in duality, to move back and forth through separation and oneness as a way of understanding, right? Of guiding all souls back to themselves, of understanding that through this pathway, through learning about separation, through separating from yourself and coming back into wholeness, you can understand yourself more deeply. And we become the guides of how we become the masters of living in separation and finding our way back to unity, which is really cool. Okay, so next paragraph. The third paragraph I summarized. I'm sorry, I got my order wrong. I already summarized it for you. See, here's where they say, third paragraph, the dualistic presence of humanity endures dynamically and strong. So dynamically means characterized by constant change or progress. It's positive and innovative. So the dualistic presence is dynamic. It's constant change. They always tell us that we are the frequency of change, that we are constantly changing. And they mention that several times in here, that there's no two moments of your existence that are exactly the same, right? That and they say it will. So we will continue to be dualistic. And they say, and it will evolve into the presence of I am in oneness. So we will actually experience oneness through the shift in humanity, through the shift in consciousness. They say it will become something from which you will encounter yourselves differently. It will juxtapose, which means to place things side by side and compare. It will juxtapose how you become to how you have been. We will see ourselves in oneness, and then we will look backwards and say, I know I'm in oneness because I used to be different. I used to be in separation. But then they say, which is indeed, again, a separative perspective, right? When we do that, when we understand ourselves through comparison, we are once again separating ourselves, this time separating ourselves from how we used to be. So like I was saying, we can't get away from it. It's just how we are. That's how we understand things. They go on to say, it will show yourselves how to encounter what was before through the lens of what you have become. And in so doing, the evolution of the soul becomes clear. And through this clarity, you can surmise how life itself began. So that is a lot. I put a lot of pink highlighter on that sentence. I'm like, that's a big one. So through this idea of being able to comprehend the fact that we can see things through our dualistic perspective, that it's a gift because, yes, it makes us separated from ourselves, and that's painful, right? And we cannot wait to get back to oneness. But because we have that perspective, we can see how a soul evolves. We evolve by seeing ourselves and unifying with what we see, seeing ourselves. But in order to see ourselves, we have to step outside of ourselves. And that is the process. We step out and we come together. We step out and we come together, right? And they say this is how life itself began. So this is describing the Big Bang. It's basically saying, how did all of life begin? It began with the question of who am I? Which was the moment that Source stepped outside of itself and looked back and said, and duality was created, right? Crazy cool. All right, next paragraph. And I surmise this paragraph to say that what I read this paragraph is saying, we shift our perspective from oneness to separation. And this is that idea I was giving, the metaphor of the guitar. That we pluck a string, right? That there are waves of energy that pluck the string, that we are the string, and there's energies that pluck it. And in so doing, we shift our perspective from oneness to separation, which creates a wave of energy, which is like the string vibrating, which exists to express itself through separation and then to forgive itself for separation, right? Think about that. That the whole point of it is to go through separation and then forgive itself for having been separated. Really, really cool. So this is how they say it. They say, you can come into the oneness of unity to divest yourself from it and reunify with it once again, which is indeed the cycle of all beginnings and endings and life itself. You are, in this way, a dynamic propulsion of energy that, through its fluidity, exists to exemplify and exonerate the perspective of the human from its own digression from itself. So that idea, that dynamic propulsion of energy, propulsion means to drive or push something forward. So it is like, how do we continue, and it's for our growth, right? How do we continue to grow? They mentioned it up here that it's dynamic, which means that it's for our growth. And how does that happen? It is through the cycle of separation and unity, separation and unity. And when they say that it exists to exemplify, in other words, it exists for us to express who we truly are. The goal is for us to be an expression of the light that we carry, to be the string that is played, right? To play our soul song into the world. But through the process of separating from ourselves, we fall into disharmony. And then we have to forgive ourselves and come back into unity. And so that's the process, they say, that exists to exemplify and to exonerate. To exonerate something means to absolve from blame, responsibility, or hardship. So this is the process. The process is we separate by going through the process of denying parts of ourselves, disliking parts of ourselves, and then finally we forgive ourselves and we bring all the parts back to ourselves. So this is the process, right? We express all these things and we're like, I wish that didn't happen. I wish I didn't say that. And then we let it all back in and exonerate ourselves, right? To forgive ourselves, to relieve ourselves of the responsibility, the hardships, the karma, right? That's what that is. We forgive ourselves, relieve ourselves of our karma, and come back into unity, which is the stage that we are in right now as we head into the shift in perspective, right? So, or the shift in consciousness. So cool. Okay, so that's the fourth paragraph. Now we head into the fifth paragraph. And I swear this was complicated, which is why I had to make myself this cheat sheet. Fifth paragraph is, the way I summarize it is, oneness will feel like being a part of an external vibration. And so the way I understood this is, maybe you guys saw the short I posted recently about when I was at a sound bath on my vacation. I was in Mexico near Merida, and I went to this really amazing sound bath in a cenote. And a cenote is like a underground limestone cavern that all through the Yucatan Peninsula, these cenotes are everywhere, and they're incredible. It's basically because the stone is so soft, it becomes like a big cavern that's kind of worn away by the flowing of water, and it becomes like an underground pool of beautiful, clear water. And this place I went, some of the cenotes are like in caves. Some of them are just like open to the sky and they're just down 100 feet or whatever. But you can go into them and swim in them, which is awesome. But we went to this one where they had a platform built and they did a sound healing there, and it was incredible. And when I was there, I had this amazing experience of, as the sounds from the bowls, they were playing crystal bowls, as the sound of the bowls was happening, I had this incredible out-of-body experience where I felt that one vibration coming from the bowl, right? It just goes sustained for a long time. And I felt, okay, that was activating inside of me. I was meeting that vibration and finding where was it inside of me. So say it was playing a particular vibration. I was like, what about me vibrates with that? And I met the vibration. And then I realized everything else around me inside of this whole cenote, this cavern, was also doing the same thing, was finding where that vibration was part of it. So every plant, every animal, everything, every rock was finding the place inside of them where that frequency was truth. And so then I realized we were all connecting because of that one shared, it's almost like everyone thinking about the same thing at the same time, and it created this unifying force. And so that is how I'm understanding their description of oneness, is that when we move into the higher state of consciousness, it will be as if we are all held in this one vibration that we all share, that we find where each of us can claim a piece of that and say, yeah, I have that in me too. So here's how they say it. They say, you shall know yourselves more completely as time moves on. You shall come into the next integration and integrative times, which is this shift in consciousness. They say, with a oneness, an external shell, a membrane, which shall vibrate to the attunement of all beings, which you shall harness yourself within and as a part of. So that's why I thought it sounded just like my experience in the cenote, that it was like I felt that vibration and I felt that it was part of me. And then I felt that I was like in it, like as if the cenote was a body and I was like one of the organs in the body, right? Is how I felt. And they went on to say, and from within that perspective, you shall announce yourselves as within a wholeness you can encounter only seldomly. Right? So this is, it means that we can't always get there. So this is going to be an amazing stage of development for humanity to be able to have this experience of unity within us, because it's hard for us because we are dualistic, right? So amazing. And then they go on to say, the next paragraph, they say, and from within the perspective of the one of I am, you shall then begin to extinguish the sensation of selves as isolated from the great one, from the wholeness of all that became before you arrived. It is thus a continuing and ongoing adventure. You are yet in the process of beginning. And I did write a little summary for that last, just what I summarized that as say, we will feel connected to source and all that is how I understood that. So beautiful. All right. So then they kind of shift in the conversation, and they take it another direction, and they start talking about our growth. And they start out and they say the solution space of self does not evolve into the next beginning. This is where they start describing us as like the string, the whole concept around the string and the vibrations that move the string. So they say the solution space of self does not evolve into the next beginnings while also contemplating the loss of what was. The self must evolve in perpetuity, not from solidified state to solidified state, of unified and dualistic and unified again, but as one being in a continuum of expression, as one being who knows itself, herself, himself, as presence ongoing in the forever space of inextinguishable light that carries on to the eternal. So this is what they're trying to describe us. They're saying that think about like when they talk about, what is it? When they talk about, why am I blanking on this? It's a science word and my brain is not working. But the idea of being a wave, not a particle. That there are particles and there are waves, and particles are fixed, right? And they are one thing and they exist in permanence. And then there are waves which just move forever, right? They're not fixed. And they're saying that we are a wave, not a particle. And they're saying that we cannot stand still and look backwards and just be that. So in other words, they're saying it's not like as we go through the shift in consciousness, it's not like we are suddenly going to leap into a new state of being and then just be frozen in that new state. That we will be a wave and that our wave is moving to a higher octave, but we will still be this ongoing changing wave, that there's never going to be a moment that we are frozen and say, we did it, now we are here. And we can look back and say that's where we were, because we're not a particle now, we are a wave now. We are in constant change. And that's what they're trying to express here, that this concept, wave versus particle. And they go on to say, and through this perspective, there are yet waves of transcendence that move across the field of your expression. So think about this. So we are a wave. And imagine that we are a wave and we are like moving through time, right? Or moving through what we would consider time, space, whatever you want to think about it. We are a wave, a song. You are a song and you are being played and you're moving as that wave through time. And then across your wave, which is the truth of who you are, your soul song, in comes these energies. And the energies are going to come across your wave and move it. It's like a vibration. It's going to affect your wave. And it doesn't change your wave. It doesn't make your wave something else. It changes the way your wave is expressing itself. It moves it. So it's like if you are a string, it is plucking the string. So it is saying, okay, it's just like playing a guitar string and you are the guitar string. And so these are waves of transcendence. So transcendence means moving beyond, waves of growth, right? So that's what's coming, waves of growth. So this is waves of light, waves of consciousness that pluck the string and cause us to grow, right? And they cause us to grow because as we are moved by them, we move in and out of separation and unity. So they say, so just to start again here, and through this perspective, there are yet waves of transcendence that move across the field of your expression. And within these waves of separation and unity, you find yourselves drawn into the relative knowing or not knowingness within which you become expressed. Thus, you are raised and lowered and raised again, but always within the expression of who you are today, tomorrow, and always. So this is that idea that we are one wave, a song, an expression, and then we are influenced by these waves of transcendence, waves of growth that move across us and cause us to move into our dualistic perspective, that cause us to separate from ourselves and unify with ourselves. And when we do that, we see ourselves and we grow, and it creates the propulsion that they talked about, that it makes us an energy that is ongoing forever, right? Crazy. To me, this is like super, super cosmic, but I love it because it's a whole new way of seeing ourselves. They go on to say, next paragraph, the self as you are knows change, is change, evolves through change, becomes change again. So this is that constant movement. It is always within the constant of reacquainting yourself with self. There is never, amongst all the instigations of who you are, two moments of soul that would know each other completely. There are always moments of juxtaposition within which to present yourself anew. So that is that idea that we are constantly in movement, that there is never a single moment that we are the same. In every single moment we have changed. We've learned from the moment ago, from a second ago, we have changed. And then the next paragraph, they say, and throughout the contextual understanding of humankind, which exists forever and will always exist, Your soul shall find itself within the differences. So this is really important to understand who we are, that we don't understand ourselves by our soul song. We understand ourselves by how we're plucked, by the movement back and forth from separation to unity. That is how we understand ourselves, because of the differences, because of who we are today versus who we are a moment ago. And that's how we literally define ourselves. And we have a really hard time hearing our soul song, which is, I think, one of the key things about this message. They go on to say, within the patterning and the expression of I am, as interpreted by who I was and who I am becoming, you see yourself not as the through line, not as a continuation, the fluidity which truly embodies you, but as the patterning of differences that evolves through time, as the I was, I am now, I am yet again, and these are the parts that cannot continue, that separate me from who I was then. So this is the description of what it is, us trying to understand ourselves through our differences. They say, you see the black, not the white, not the black. In other words, we don't see the whole picture. We only see a piece of it. We see a part of it. We see the differences, and we see the plucking, but not the string. And then they say, you see patterns and patterning within the expression of the wholeness. And so I see this as we hear the music that's coming from the guitar string, but we can never see the guitar. You see separation through differences, and through this means and method, you interpret humanity, reality, all that comes, all that will come, all that separates you once again. And then here they shift the conversation a little bit again. And they say, within the soul, within the self, there is continuity, like a verb. So they're talking to us about the string now. They're telling us about the string that's hard for us to see. Within the soul, within the self, there is continuity, like a verb, that transitions between moments and realities and expressions, that is unchanging, enduring, forever, and that knows itself more deeply. So a verb is like an action state. A verb is about doing things. So it's about being, it's about motion, right? Things in motion. It's the fact that we are the wave is what they're talking about here. They're talking about the string. And then they say, that, and it knows itself more deeply. So that's kind of the point of why do we do it? Why do we move through these states of separation and unity, is in order to understand ourselves more deeply, understand and the string more deeply that we are, the soul song that we are. They say, as each harmonious blending becomes itself, and that is as we blend, as we move from separation back to unity, that's a harmonious blending of everything that we just learned about ourselves. As we go through that process of going from separation, blending back into unity, as it becomes, they say, you grow richer, not through polarity, but through the fine tuning of the instrument of your own harmony. So in other words, the string itself is not polarized. The string itself is a unified being. It's us. It's who we are at our core. And it is it's the only part of us. It is unchanging. But they say that what's happening is we are fine tuning it, that we constantly change our expression of who we are, but it is a fine-tuning of the instrument of our soul song, of your own harmony, through the expression of your soul in greater octaves and vibrations not yet known to yourself, but always the same tone, frequency of I am. So to me, this makes me think about the concept of healing as a spiral, as we're moving up higher and higher and higher into higher octaves of the same soul song, learning to express ourselves in higher states of being. Yeah. And it's always us. It's always the same us. But the way that we move into higher frequency is by moving into polarity, out of polarity, right, into oneness, and then integrating what we learned. So then they go, and the integration is key, right? That's super, super important. And then they go, and it's the learning part. That's how we shift. That's how we fine tune ourselves. It's the feedback that we need. So this last paragraph here, they say, this is the indication of your divinity. This is the truth of your ownness. And this shall stay in the stillness of your memories, in the deepest contemplations that are possible, and the most potent center of your beingness. You may attune to this quiet, to the stillness of your soul, to wherein lies the continuity which is your expression across all space, time, and dimension. The richness of you, the reverberation of you like a wind, like a whistle, and you may hear it in the stillness, in the softness. And it is this that we sing to you as we draw you forward into the next expression of who you are to become. And wow, do I love that. Wow. So to me, it says that the string is our connection to God. That's how I read that. And it makes me think about when I've heard about like people who have achieved the state of oneness, the state of enlightenment, and how they say that they can hear the song, the right, the song of the universe. And what I think that may be is the song of our string, the string that connects us to source. That it may be the sound of is different for each of us. The hum, right, that we are tuning to, which is like the sound of God, of the universe. Maybe that is unique, and maybe what we're actually hearing is our soul song, which is really hard for us to hear unless we are in a very, very deep meditative state. Yeah, just amazing to me. This message just amazes me. It's so beautiful. And I find that it's things that we've heard in different ways, things that maybe we've heard pieces of this, but to have them integrated all in this way, to me, I just find this to be so eye-opening, and it gives me such a clear understanding of like what it is to be a human, and why to be a human, and why do we go through this, and why do we live in this way, and what is it to be dualistic, and to see that it's such a blessing, and that we are the teachers of how to find your way back to yourself, because we are the masters of this dualistic perspective, that we are moving in and out of it all, that we literally are propelling ourselves, like with fins moving in and out, like this wave moving across all space, time, and dimension, trying to become higher states, fine-tuning this expression of ourselves. Just so cool. So I want to see what you guys are saying. You're saying, Judith is saying, really brilliant. Thank you. And an angel's the best yet. I'm so glad you guys love it too. Gosh, I read this. I was like, I don't know if it's just me because I geek out on this stuff, but I'm so glad you guys love it too. And you're saying, it is so humbling to hear they describe what we are. My heart is filled with gratitude. Yes. Saying really, and then you say, the integration is the number 13. Yes, Jane, that is, we just learned about that in our wisdom soup from, and that's like, apparently that's a thing with the Pleiadians and the Mayan calendar. We heard that from Pia and Colin and Wisdom Soup. So exciting, that idea about the integration. And Rochelle is saying, so all of together are the symphony of the universe. Yes. Oh, thank you for adding that, Rochelle. That is gorgeous. Yes, absolutely. So I wonder if there's layers of oneness that we will go through. Like if the goal, like if we are supposed to hear our own soul song and then gradually hear the humming of all of us together to create the orchestra, like that may be the next level. Once we get to a place where we feel like we are finely tuned, like when our instrument is playing in perfection, then maybe at that point we start tuning in to the whole universe. How incredible. What a great idea. Thank you for adding that to the conversation. So, all right, you guys, I hope you have an amazing weekend. And don't forget, next weekend we will be live if you want to join us. And you can join us for free if you choose, live in our New Mighty Network. And the link is here, and I'll put it in the description box here on YouTube, so you can find your way there. That what happens is we would be doing just like we do here. I'll be reading the message with you, and then going through it live, and then that recording will then be posted here posted on Facebook. So, and then if you would like to be part of the new community that we're starting, which is more in depth, like I said, the goal is for us to be able to take our relationships offline, to be able to form local in-person connections. That's the goal, but also to have an online community of positivity, of upliftment that's going to support us in trying to hold a higher vibration, to keep our thought patterns as positive as we can, while of course always moving through the wounding, moving through what needs to come up, but trying to support ourselves in a high vibration. Then that link is in there as well. So you can be part of that if that speaks to you. All right, you guys, have a beautiful weekend. Sending you tons of love. And I will see you next Friday live. Bye, you guys.
Now I'll share the conversation I had about the new group with our Facebook group this morning.
So when we came up with this idea of switching networks or switching platforms, it came from a big conversation that we were having about like, what is it that we want? What is it that we want to do? Like, how is it that we want to experience this community? And we had a deep conversation about it and realized like the coolest thing that we see happening in this community is when you guys are forming real connections with one another. That to me is like the most exciting thing. And I think a lot of you, like I see it happening. Even we had our wisdom soup yesterday and people were like, hey, let's meet up. Let's go to Shasta together. Like people were like, I think we're craving that. And I know it for a couple different reasons. I know for myself, you guys know that when I got on my spiritual journey, I was like, I had no spiritual peeps. Like my friends were not at all interested, didn't want to talk to me about it at all. And I needed some friends. I needed people who knew what I was going through. And so that was when I started Wisdom Soup. I went out, I rented a theater, I put an ad on Meetup, and people showed up. But it's not easy for all of us to do that for whatever, for various reasons. Like, that was my path, but that path doesn't work for everyone. And so how do we facilitate that? How do we make it easy? So we started thinking about it, like, what would that look like? And we were looking at all these different platforms to see, because Facebook is great. I love that Facebook is free. That's awesome. But and it's free to me as a host. It doesn't cost me anything to have a group here. And that's beautiful. Like, it's great that way, but it's very limited in what it allows us to do. Like, Facebook's goal is to keep us on Facebook. Like, that's what Facebook wants to do. It wants to encourage us to stay here, to stay digital, to stay on their platform. And so they really don't facilitate easily a way for us to do what it is that we actually want to do. So in addition, I find for me, it's a little distracting. Like, when I come in to see our group, there's all kinds of other posts that come up that honestly, it's like celebrity, this person is doing that with this person. It's very distracting for me. And maybe it is for you guys too. But I found that it was like lowering my vibe, which I didn't want. And I especially, like, after the recent conversations I've had with the angels about my own journey and asking about, like, I've been asking, like, how is it that we achieve enlightenment? And yes, we're going to go through this shift in consciousness, but like, why not go for broke? Let's go for enlightenment, like, why not? Why wouldn't we? And I asked, like, what is it that it takes? And what even is enlightenment? Like, what is that? And they said enlightenment is the oneness. It's the experience of being unified. And how do we get there? They said, master our thoughts. And that was like, it seemed so simple to me and yet also so difficult. So I kind of started with that, and I thought, well, how do we do that? I notice that when I am in a low vibration environment, when I'm surrounded by, like, the distractions I was talking about here at Facebook, it lowers my vibe. I notice that it pulls me down, like, it puts us into, like, social media in general. A lot of our social media platforms emphasize negative thought patterns. They put us in comparison with one another, right? They are about sort of creating fear or creating sense of unworthiness, that kind of stuff. It's like, we know that's like an issue. Guys, my daughter, when I was amazed by this, when my daughter was 16 years old, she recognized, she was on Instagram, and at the time it was like Snapchat was the thing. And she noticed that it made her feel bad. She noticed that it was creating for her really unhappy feelings. And she literally, at 16, unsubscribed from all of her social media and literally got rid of her smartphone and got a flip phone when she was 16 years old. Blow my mind, right? And I was so proud of her. And she has since, now that, when she got to college, she had a long enough break from it. I think she felt strong enough in her sense of identity, and she recognized that she needed to be on some of these platforms just to be able, like, she missed out on a lot of parties, a lot of stuff, because she wasn't in the flow of communication. So she did get back on, but it was potent to see that she recognized it had that big of a negative effect on her. So what do we do about that? Like, this is where we connect with one another, but what do we do if this forum that we're in creates negativity? And this is why I think if you look at the astrology, it's pushing us. If this move into Aquarius, it's pushing us into environments that are individual and that are specific, right? That are bring it to the people, not in the big structure, but in the little structure, where we create a community that's for us, that is going to do what we want, that's going to support us in the ways that we choose. So that's kind of where we started. How do we create a structure that's going to raise our vibration and encourage us to get off of the platform, to meet in person, to create real connections? Because boy, I feel that, and I know a lot of you do feel like we need it, And you guys are saying, like, yes, Facebook is very distracting. Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, and it says your kiddo did the same thing, Diane. Oh my gosh, that is so cool. Yeah, I love that. I'm amazed that we have these incredibly connected, young people these days. It amazes me. So, okay, so we searched around a bunch of different groups, and the reason we settled on Mighty, after looking, we considered like every single option out there. We looked at everything. What is so cool about Mighty Networks is that it has this built-in technology. It is all based on, so when you join Mighty Networks, you put in and we have it in the questions you're supposed to fill out. You create a little profile. Ideally, put a picture of your face because it's about getting to know you personally, and it is a closed community. And then it has a place in there where you're supposed to put where you live, like what city you're in, what state you're in. You don't have to put like your address, but city and state. And also like fill in like what you're interested in, what you haven't, what is interesting to you. Then as a big part of the platform, it will show you the people who are, number one, physically near you, and then people you have stuff in common with. And it gives you a place to kind of start a conversation. So then the other cool thing, so the way we set it up is we'll have our main sort of group. We'll have two sections. We'll have the section, which like I said, which is for, if you're just really into, like, if you just want to be here for the angels, I totally understand that. Some of us are deep introverts and we're like, love people at a distance. I get that. And that is absolutely okay. So if you want to participate just in the live, then like I said, absolutely free. And of course, the recording will always be on YouTube for free as well. So that is not changing. But what is changing is we are adding a whole bunch of new stuff that Facebook cannot do for us. And so that will be, and Mighty Networks is a paid network. So this will be a paid membership, but we've tried very hard to keep it reasonable. So the paid membership is $27. So it's like the cost of going out to lunch with your friends. So, and what you will find in that group is there will be a bunch of different things you can do. So there will be sort of our main page, our main feed you will land on, but there will be all of these subgroups. And that is the other thing that Mighty Networks gives us. It gives us the ability to have subgroups, to have groups within the group. So we're dividing it up by geography. So we'll start out with just time zones and say, okay, if you're in the Pacific time zone like me, then you'll join the Pacific time zone chat. If you're in Mountain Time, you'll join Mountain Time. And then over time, as more and more people join the group, we will separate that out even more specifically. So there'll be Pacific Time Zone and the Seattle chat. There will be and so you can choose you can join the East Coast chat and as well as the Pittsburgh chat, right? And so you can have two or as many as you want. But the idea then is that you will automatically be in real personal conversations with other people who live near you. And the chats are just like that. It's like a group chat, just like if you were on text and you were texting with a group. So that's how they're structured. And so it's really about like having a real conversation. And ideally, then say, for example, you are on there one day, you happen to be another person is on there and you're talking and you say, hey, do you want to meet for coffee? So, and they say yes. Then you say, okay, let's meet Tuesday, 2 p.m. You pick the spot. Then within that chat, there's a place where you can post your event and you can say, hey, Carrie and I are meeting for coffee Tuesday at this time. And does anybody want to join us? Here's where we're going to be. And you post it in the chat as an event. And that way other people see it. And this is how, and we learned from what our beautiful group in Phoenix has done. This is how it started. 2 people said, hey, let's get together for coffee. And then other people joined in. And now they have a group like that last time I saw, they posted, it was like 16 people strong. But why not have it everywhere? Let's facilitate it everywhere. Like we don't just have to wait for like magic to happen. Let's make it happen by the structure of the group. So that's really the goal. That's what we're trying to accomplish and it's going to take like contributions from everyone. It's a group that's going to be created by all of us. So the idea is we get in and each of us will participate. Each of us will hopefully be open to connection and then be that person who's bold and says, hey, I would love to get together, for a coffee or whatever and get the ball rolling. And then we will support you. And then here's what I love. When I think about this group, what I would love to do is to be able, like as I'm traveling, as I'm in new places, I would love to be able to get on there and go into the chats and say, hey, you guys, I'm going to be at this location. I'm going to be in this city. Want to get together, want to have coffee, want to meet, and create opportunities where we can meet in person. And then super, super cool. Say, for example, a group gathers, say that we get, a local group that's like the Phoenix group. Part of the reason we decided to go to Phoenix was because there was 16 people there who were ready to get together. So as these groups grow, we will be able to see where you guys are starting to build concentrations and communities, and then we will plan one-day events to come together to bring us all together and do in-person events with the Mother of Creation and the angels. So that is, for me, that is how I see it evolving, is ways of supporting you in in creating community. And yeah, so I just love the idea. I love the idea. It's something I think I always wanted to do back when I started Wisdom Soup, but I just didn't know how to do it. And now with this platform, I see it as being possible. So in there's that piece of it where you can do the individual chats, but there's also other things happening that will help us to form community. There's going to be like individual clubs in there, such as if you are interested in joining a book club or a journaling club, where the journaling club is the idea is that if you have a hard time like sticking to your journaling, the idea is that you can get together with other people at an appointed time. And it's like you are kind of coming together. You're saying, okay, now we're all going to journal. And then you come back together again and say, yes, I did it. It's like that accountability circle. So things like that gives us a reason to be in community with one another. So anyways, I'm very excited about it. Come in and check it out. The first 2 weeks, if you guys aren't sure, the first 2 weeks are free. And so you can come in and just join in for the first 2 weeks. So within the first 2 weeks, what we're going to start on day one. So I encourage you, even if this isn't for you, I encourage you to come in and just be part of it for the first 2 weeks, because one of the things we're going to do starting on the 28th is a challenge, which is going to be a raise our vibe through thought mastery, mastering our thoughts, what the angels asked us to do, is going to be come in and be part of that. So it's a 2-day challenge. The way it's structured is that day one, which is going to start on Friday the 28th, we're going to all start a thought journal. We'll be talking about it on that Friday Live, how to start our thought journal. And then on the second day, we're going to get together for a healing with the angels and the Mother of Creation, where we're going to heal whatever thought patterns we identified that we would like to free ourselves of. So it's going to be super cool. It's again, I've hopefully be very, very supportive for you guys on your journey. And I think it's something we plan to do regular, like monthly challenges. They'll be different every month, but I love the concept of this thought challenge. So that is one I think that we will see several times during the year. So anyway, so this is a little bit about the group. I know that, like I said, that it's either you're going to feel a full body yes on this and you're going to be part of it. If you are not, that is absolutely okay. And I would absolutely love to see you in the Friday live chat like we have always had. And that this is an additional thing that I feel called, that I feel really excited to offer. And so if you want to be part of it, I would love to see you there. I would love to do it with you. And like I said, absolutely, and that's a big part of this, the judgment piece of it. No judgment of self or other, because boy, we are super, super supported astrologically and in every way in doing this group. The next weekend, Friday, the beginning of this big change we're making is like, that is landing right there, right around this big solar eclipse, which is all about social networks, shifting, changing so that they serve us. And it is, but so the high vibe expression of that energy is this idea of finding new ways of connecting, changing our social environment so that it supports us. The low vibration is that concept of like judging and things like that. So that is the thing and this is going to be the energy that founds the group. So we want to move it and hold that high vibe of social connections that support us, and then be aware of any time that we are in the lower vibrations of judgment, where we feel any kind of judgment about each other or anything like that. And it is unlikely to happen in the group because of the fact of our intention moving into it. But it's always good to be aware of the polarity of any kind of energy that we're working with. So okay, so much to say about that, but I am going to make a tutorial for those of you who are interested in joining it, that you can join today. It is, and Adrian says, love this. Facebook can be very distracting and almost overwhelming for me. I feel that more and more and more, you guys, and that is really why I feel the pull to move off of Facebook. And for me, like once this group isn't here, I probably will never come to Facebook. So because of that, I find it's extremely distracting for me, and more so over time. And why is that? I mean, I do believe I'm changing, I'm shifting. I just find that I really want to be, and the angels said that at one point, right? They said that over time we will find ourselves, it will become increasingly hard for us to be in lower vibration environments. So I feel that. I feel the pull. So yeah, so I'm thrilled that many of you are going to come and join in. And like I said, if you are just on the free page, please join us there too, because I cherish that every bit as much. It is really I feel that in the holding of this energy, as we share these messages together, we are doing real work together. And these messages are given by the angels for all of us, and that we all bring our perspective. We all ground these messages here. So being a part of that, of the free portion of this group, is very, very valued by me and by the angels, and hopefully by you. So thank you, Maureen. I'm so glad you're psyched for it too. Yay, awesome. Oh, and thank you for the color compliment. I appreciate that. This is like when I was in high school, my mascara. You guys remember the days of colored mascara? I always wore teal mascara. It was like my color. It was like my signature eyelash. It's so funny to think about. Okay, and then Maurice is so excited for this. Have done things like this for healthy eating and exercise. Love this for thoughts and increasing our vibration. Love a challenge. I'm so glad, and we're doing that in the group too. We're also, there's sections in there, and here's the thing: is that as it evolves, the group is there kind of in a general starting form. It will evolve as we evolve. Like as you guys say, hey, we need a section, we need a space to talk about this. Great, we will create that space, right? We want it to evolve to be to fit us, to fit what we want. So anyways, yeah. So I'm very, very, very excited to see you guys are excited for it too. Thank you.
Thanks so much for sticking around to hear more about the group. So the group is live now. You can join today. Come in, start looking around, get to be familiar with it. And then we will be live as of March 28th, Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific is the first time we will go live in the group with the Friday Live message. So I hope to see you there. I hope you'll join us. The links to join are in the description box below. Thanks so much.